What's up, YouTube? It's your boy. Let's go on a walk. It's a beautiful May afternoon, southern Canada. A lot of stuff going on. The birds are chirping. Leaves are just coming out. But that's not why I want to make this video. Let's talk about something that's been happening in my community that's been quite troubling. So, for the last 6 months, someone's been putting up these stickers with these conspiracy theory populist messages. So there's no to COVID vaccine, police are Nazi, and there's one message in particular that's really troubling to me, which is deport illegals.
Another example where pedestrians see really hateful messages on a daily, right on this advertising sign for the university. Of course, the university or local police have done nothing about it. That does not surprise me. Just another example, just to really prove my point. That's scratched out deportation. Okay.
These are racist dog whistles, and I'm going to argue today that these stickers actually echo a modern form of neo-slavery within the prison industrial complex. But before I get to that, we're going to start with a story. And it's a story about the Civil War and the post-war neo-slavery. I think most of us kind of have been fed the narrative that the Civil War was about slavery, and then after the war ended, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation that is supposed to have given liberty to all people. It's a little bit more complicated than that. So just because the institution of slavery was formally outlawed doesn't mean that slavery ended after the Civil War. When Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, he left a very important clause, and that clause basically said that, you are not allowed to enslave people unless you consider them criminals. So, fast forward to this historian who goes by the last name of Blackmun, and he's talking about how after the Civil War, there's a lot of evidence showing how slavery and slavery on racial lines, so mostly black people, continued by criminalizing the existence of black people through the application of enforcing trivial laws that would not have been done to white people. So let's go again to these stickers that say deport illegals. Who do you think of when you imagine an illegal person? Do you think of a white Ukrainian refugee? Maybe a British tourist overstays their visa and they shouldn't be in the country? Probably not. You're probably thinking of Indian, Hispanic, or black people if you're in Canada. So let's have a little thought experiment. What if we had an immigration crackdown like they had in the States? So immigration officers are patrolling the streets, masked military personnel are walking into elementary school looking for people, and they can ask you for proof of citizenship and detain you if you don't have it. Who do you think these people would ask for citizenship? And who do you think would likely pass unaffected? If you're a white person, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily a citizen. But are you more likely to get away with it? Probably. We're going to jump back again to the post-slavery southern USA. So, once again, we're jumping back to vagrancy laws. So these are laws that actually exist in the criminal codes, and you probably wouldn't know even existed, which are saying that it is illegal to be unemployed. What happened is that these vagrancy laws were weaponized selectively against African Americans, black people, but usually not white people. At a moment's notice, could have been walking down the street, had a police officer ask them for proof of employment. They could have been employed, but if they couldn't produce proof of employment, that would have been enough grounds for somebody to have locked them up. Again, all of these historical claims are going back to Blackmun. I'll post a link in the description. It's a really great podcast. There's also a transcript available where you can read these claims in more detail. Black folks going through their day-to-day lives and just being stopped by police officers, and they can be arrested and placed in the criminal justice systems based on these vagrancy laws. So what does 2025 deportation have to do with criminalization of vagrancy laws in the southern states. That was like 150 years ago. Um, let's talk about Quilmar Abrego Garcia. So he's a Salvadorian man who came to the States as an undocumented refugee fleeing gang violence. In 2019, he was accused by immigration officials of being gang affiliated, quote unquote, because of Chicago Bulls gear and the word of a confidential informant. These allegations were never proven. And because there was a risk to his life if he was deported, a judge blocked his deportation to have him return to El Salvador. Fast forward to 2025. Garcia was detained by ICE officials based on these past unproven allegations, and he is now the subject of a highly politicized scandal for being wrongfully deported to El Salvador. He's being held in a mega prison. Mm, I think I think his prison is called Secot, or however you say that. And this prison is known for severe overcrowding, inadequate food, and lack of opportunities for rehabilitation. Although this specific prison doesn't provide work opportunities, let's think back to the institution of like the criminal justice system. Think of the processing and deportation camps that he had to pass through to get to this prison. Sometimes government workers, a lot of times like private prison contractors that are profiting off of the United States' like immigration crackdown. So think of how this man was criminalized based on allegations. There's all these flies like swarming me here. I don't know if they're mosquitoes. I don't know if they're what. I'm gonna go on a little run here. Get away from me. Check that out. That is lovely things to see in the spring. So again, think of the institutions that are benefiting. Think back to how after the Civil War, the institutions that were benefiting were like people who could get prison labor, so the prison system, or perhaps any like private enterprises that could hire prison labor. These were the people that were benefiting off of like the racial technology of criminalized blackness, and how in 2025 the people who are benefiting off of the racial technology of criminalized brownness are private prison contractors, government employees working for like immigrations and customs enforcement. Still have some flies like chasing me around. So once again, ask yourself this counterfactual question. Would a white man with an Anglo-American name have experienced the same treatment as Garcia? Should one go and accuse a white person who is undocumented of just being gang affiliated? Remember, this was a confidential informant. This could have been somebody who didn't like Garcia, who just went around and spread a rumor to ICE that he was gang affiliated. Now, should one do that to a white man? Is he equally likely to have been put in handcuffs, swept off the street, and like sent to an actual mega prison in El Salvador? I don't think so. It's just absolutely lovely. Check out the river. Look at that. The leaves are coming out. You can hear all the birds. It's a great time to be outside. But as nice as it is, that is not the entire reason why I'm making this video. So I've shown you the good side. I'm going to show you the kind of stuff that you have to walk past when you're doing things like this. Just try to enjoy yourself. Here it is. Hire back Canadian. So with these stickers going up around the neighborhood, ask yourself, how do you determine who is an illegal? Can any of these heuristics have problematic consequences when misapplied? In the case of the states, a right-wing populist government promised its voter base economic prosperity at the expense of removing brown people. This is the whole idea that like, oh, brown people are taking your jobs.
Just doing a little quick post edit. I feel like I didn't treat this issue with maybe quite enough nuance as it might have had. For the record, Canada does have a lot of issues with its temporary foreign worker program, like artificially importing foreign labor that young people used to work in order to like keep wages down, and this being like lobbied by big corporations. I don't want to treat it as a one-dimensional issue. There is a way to like call corporations out on their crap of like using exploitative labor practices where like nobody's really benefiting from that relationship, while also like being sensitive to the humanity of those laborers and not blaming immigrants for those situations.
And I'm not saying that like we can't reduce our immigration levels and like put people through a proper due process. But what's happening in the States is not a due process. It is just blatant racial profiling. So once again, when you see this kind of right-wing populist rhetoric, hire back Canadians or deport illegals, ask yourself this as a Canadian. Are these Canadian values? My family, when I was 3 years old in 2005, we came from Colombia. And thanks to this lovely country full of welcoming, inclusive people, I got some of the best education that I could have gotten in the world. I went to the best music program in Western Canada during high school. I'm going to a top Canadian university because I was given these opportunities through this lovely society. I love this country to death. But ask yourself, is ideas like deport illegals and the extent to which things like hire back Canadian are related to those ideas, are those Canadian values? Is that what we want to stand for? Is that Canadian or is that 51st state? The weather right now is so beautiful. It's so great to be outside. I think it's very easy to go outside in times like this. But this Monday, when the polls are open, I want you also to go outside, even if it's not as easy as this, even if the weather isn't so nice. I want you to reflect on your values, what Canadian values are, and what each politician is signaling as their values. And I'm not telling you who to vote for. You should vote for whoever you want. But I want you, no matter how ugly it might be outside, I want you to get your ass outside and vote. Vote for Canadian values. Thank you. There it is. No to illegals. Save Canada. Save Canada from whom? Is it save Canada from brown people? Think about that. It's your boy. See y'all later.
It's a little part 2 that I'm putting in editing at the end. So this is my personal strategy for combating this kind of stuff. Initial approach was to like beat them at their own game, use populist style 3-word messages, stuff like fuck the patriarchy, science rules, vaccines save lives. I've actually gone back on that stance. I don't believe that engaging with this kind of messaging in your community, stuff like this, is the best way to handle it. I think the best way to handle it is to avoid engagement. And that's why I've gotten myself here some labels from Staples. And instead of writing these 3-word populist messages on them, all I'm gonna do is cover them up. Because nobody wants to be walking down the park and run into this populist, oh, Canada is fucking, it's The Last of Us, guys. This is actually Mad Max Fury Road apocalypse because there's more brown people now. So we grab a nice blank label and we stick it over. So that is my guide on how to combat hate in your community. Thank you, folks. Sup, players? This is case study 2, fire hydrant by the Western University Rec Center. Just get a little whoop whoop. It's like every time somebody walks by and doesn't say or do anything, it's like a microcosm of normalizing this stuff. As I go around covering this stuff up, I also want to share some really cool creations from community members who have also been doing the same stuff. Armed with a Mind, and my personal favorite, high definition Sharpie of Playboy Cardi. That's a great sticker. That is some fucking art, my friend. Still got some left. So yeah, have a good day, my friends.